Here follows an extract from my book Artful Designs, available from Amazon. Chapter 14, Part 1. Munro and Inspector Baskerville had dedicated the entire morning to searching through Diederik van der Molen's city apartment and office space in the gallery. It was decided that 3 policemen would be a case of too many cooks spoil the broth, and so DCI James had brought the investigation back to the Whitworth. A fragile piece of sorts had returned to the museum, and the staff had resumed their usual workload in an effort to soldier on. The skylight, which had been damaged to gain entry for the break-in, had been replaced, and what little fire damage there was had been repaired and decorated. Although the calm atmosphere was brittle, at least a superficial veneer of normality reigned. The fact that the everyday manner exhibited was a little unconvincing passed unremarked, and everyone was happy to follow suit. A person could only be shocked and aghast for so long. Admittedly, there was an extra strain whenever Brian was on duty. Although he rarely spoke a word, his punctilious and overbearing manner was unnerving. Nevertheless, it was borne patiently. Who could blame him? If once bitten, twice shy was a maxim, then the repercussions of being bitten twice could hardly be imagined, especially when Brian's strong sense of duty was added into the equation. If truth be told, it was Theo's excessive good humour that really rankled. His frenzied jocundity could only be tolerated in very short doses. No doubt he felt that it was incumbent upon him to restore a sense of teamwork and to rekindle the joy of the vocation which knitted them together. Nevertheless, it was oppressive. It actually came as a relief when Theo's temper fractured at the interruption caused by DCI James questioning everyone yet again. "How the hell are we supposed to ever get any work done?" Theo thundered. "As if it isn't enough to have the very bricks and mortar violated. My collection has dwindled, and my colleagues too. When we finally start to find some sense of rhythm again, there's always some bloody copper who's bound to break the flow." Once the energy of his outburst had dissipated, Theo sagged and apologised for his outburst. "Oh, don't mind me," said James. "Best to vent it, get it off your chest. I grant you that we do keep turning up like the proverbial bad penny. It must be annoying for you, but just remember that we are pursuing a common cause at the end of the day." "Of course you are, and I am grateful. I just feel so desperate. I'm not at all sure how I'm supposed to play this out. Do we carry on as usual as far as we can, or do we throw our hands in the air and surrender? I have to admit that I feel like just giving in. But that can't be right, can it?" "Nothing feels right," said Theo. "The best solution to this would be perfect closure. Let's catch a killer and maybe find a painting while we're at it. You'll feel better then, I guarantee it," said James. "I wish that could be the case," said Theo. "As far as catching a killer goes, I wouldn't know where on earth to start. However, I suspect that the Constable is lost on some rubbish heap. I cherish your enthusiasm, but I'm afraid it's over-optimistic." "Excuse me for interrupting," said Sally, "but I really do need to ask you something." She hovered nervously next to DCI James and appeared to be gathering her courage and her thoughts. "Is it true that Rick really stole from Mag all those years ago? Could he have been behind all the trouble here?" "We can't really say for sure, but I'd suggest that it's highly likely. It's the best scenario we can think of that will explain all of these recent events. The timing certainly fits," said James. "Is that why he was killed?" Sally shuddered visibly as she asked the awful question. "At present we can only presume so," said James. Sally took the statement in. "How awful. It's just not worth it, is it? We spend our adult lives believing how valuable and priceless these treasures are, but nothing is worth a human life, is it? What on earth are we doing here? Pussyfooting around some blobs of pigment on a stretch of canvas. It's ludicrous." Theo took Sally in his arms as she fought back the tears. I'm sorry that's my melancholy rubbing off on you. You've put up with my maudling moods at home, and now my depression has brought you down, he said. Try not to get too bogged down with it all, said James. Some of what you say is true, but don't lose the intrinsic worth of the art you know and love. Hold on to the value of the heritage. Let the anger you have fuel you into helping me to get to the bottom of this business. Sally gently nodded her head and slipped away, leaving Theo to talk with the inspector. How can I help you? Theo asked. I realise that sounds cliché, but I really do want to help, despite my tantrums. Tiresome as it is, I need you to cast your mind back to that day yet again, said James. Try and remember any tiny little thing, and I really mean any little thing that didn't ring true. Forget about the lads descending upon the museum as they did, that's an obvious factor. Consider anything from the more mundane elements of the day of the robbery. I think I understand you, but I really have nothing else to add. I'll keep thinking on it, though. Consider the smouldering fire. Somebody must have had time and leisure to set that up. It wasn't a haphazard affair. How was that managed without comment or notice? It may not have been a stranger or anything so conspicuous, but somebody ostensibly going about their legitimate business, but on reflection something was a little out of place. You said to cast aside the lads turning up, but what about Rick? Who knows what he was up to before anybody saw him? Even so, nothing springs to mind. I'll bear it in mind and chat to the others. And in the meantime? In the meantime, I'll just keep putting one foot in front of the other. I'll let my feet take me to chat to Brian. He's desperate to have a hand in clearing this up as a matter of conscience. Where can I find him? Now, there's a man in need of professional help. He's pacing about the place like a caged tiger. He's here somewhere, but it's a matter of chance where he'll be at any given moment. He's terrified that something catastrophic is going to happen under his nose again, and he's bursting for a chance to prove his worth. Of course, there's nothing that he can do, but you try and tell him that. I'll go and rescue the poor chap, but heaven save me from his terrible tea. For the full book of Artful Designs, available in paperback or as an ebook, follow the link in the cards in the description box or find details on my website at sharonbill.com. Thanks for listening.